Problem. So, Daryl,
Let's
you
go
want to kick
ahead
us
and
off?
let's go ahead and get started. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us at the Capital Raise Strategy Session. I'm thrilled to have you all here, whether you're a seasoned investor, an aspiring entrepreneur, or somewhere in between. Today, we are going to dive deep into capital raising. So our special guest is Ashley Tison. He's the founder and the president of OZPros and a visionary who has seamlessly blended his expertise in law, real estate, and business growth to help business owners and investors like you and me think bigger and act more intentionally. Ashley is here to share his unique insights and strategies that have propelled countless businesses and individuals to new heights. His approach is not just about business, it's about creating a legacy, making an impact that ripples through generations. So grab your pad, settle in. Let's embark on this journey together. Prepare to be inspired, to learn, and to transform the way you think about capital raising and your path to success. Let's welcome Ashley Tison.
Well, thank you, Daryl. I really appreciate it. It's honor and a privilege to be on here today. Glad that we got all the technical snafus, squared away. Before I kind of get rolling into like my traditional presentation, I'm curious about like what's the feel of the room here? Like what are most folks raising for? Is it more like multifamily real estate stuff? Are they raising for other types of things? Like what are the aggregate raises that are happening?
Yeah,
I
so
was
most of us are in multifamily real estate, Ashley, but we do have some folks that are running funds that are note funds, debt funds, and we have some RV park funds, mobile home park funds. I think one person is in self-storage, but when it gets out to the greater membership and on our YouTube channel, it'll be across a pretty broad swath of commercial real estate investments, both investors and also fund managers.
Okay, awesome.
What,
So
what we don't have, as far as I know, is anyone running an OZ fund.
perfect. Well, I think that this is the ideal time to kind of educate everybody about what, I've basically gone all in on, which are these things called opportunity zones. So you might have heard the word, you may even be familiar with it. I promise that you'll learn something new as we kind of go forward today. And the I think that opportunity zones are literally the greatest legislatively created tax incentive that's ever happened. And the key piece of that is legislatively created. And as a result of it being legislatively created, they can't be, they can't get changed into listed transactions. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with conservation easements, but great strategy. And it was a fantastic element that Congress put through, allowing people to do conservation easements. But then you got some people that got really creative with them, and they put all of this, shine on them. They started syndicating them out, and the IRS said, nope, we're going to make that a listed transaction. The great thing about opportunity zones is that because they were created by Congress, they cannot be a listed transaction. And so now that doesn't necessarily mean that the IRS can't say, okay, hey, we're going to pull these in as an audit flag, right? And we're going to flag folks' stuff going forward. But as long as you dot your I's and you cross your T's and you keep track of things, then you're going to be good to go. So opportunity zones were created by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. And I typically have the ability to share my screen, but I had to, once again, those technical difficulty issues coming through. I am running off of my my laptop here. So what I'm going to do is share my screen just via Zoom now.
okay.
Daryl, have you enabled
Yeah,
screen
yeah, he
share?
can.
Perfect.
So Ashley, while you're pulling that up, just to be clear for anyone that might be listening that are not familiar, you've mentioned a couple of things that relate to more than anything else, tax strategies, and for especially high net worth individuals or ultra high net worth individuals, doing conservation easements was more than anything a tax strategy. And now OZ opportunities are another way to have a much bigger tax advantage over just, say, any other particular development or deal that we might be doing. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think that that's the key, right? Is that that opportunity zones present a way for folks that are on this podcast, right? So an RV park fund, a a mobile home park fund, that you could set up a opportunity zone version of that and continue to do what you've done. And I'm just going to show you how you can make an extra at least 25% on it. And it ends up, or your investors can make that, because it completely eliminates taxes on the back end. So first, what is an opportunity zone? They were created by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. The governors got to designate at least 25% or up to 25% of their low-income census tracts as opportunity zones. This was based off of the 2010 census. And so, as you can imagine, areas that were low-income census tracts back in 2010 are not necessarily low-income now. And so a lot of the zones that have been designated are like, you're like, wow, I can't believe that's an opportunity zone. And that's one of the reasons why. So there's 8,767 of them, and they're all over the country. You can see that out west, they get a little bit bigger because, there's just less population out there. And so the tract that comprises that 25,000 people gets a lot larger. So the three main benefits of an opportunity zone are, first, is that you get to defer capital gains from the sale of any kind of appreciated asset. Now, that's one of the unfortunate things, is that you actually have to have capital gains as your equity infusion. Now, don't let that daunt you, because we can usually get creative where we can bring non-capital gains money into the mix via a loan or whatever. But at some point in time during the transaction, you've got to have a capital gain. And so you put that capital gain into a qualified opportunity fund. This was the second benefit, which went away in 2019 and 2021, which has led to a lot of people saying, well, oh man, I thought OZs were dead. I thought they expired in 2021. Nope, that's not the case at all. It's just that the second benefit went away, and that might get picked up based upon pending legislation that's out there right now. But here's the big one. The third benefit is the one that we want to focus in on, is that it's a permanent exclusion in the form of a step up in basis to fair market value. That term, step up in basis to fair market value, is really important. So when you sell an appreciated asset, you have what you paid for it, and then like any kind of like improvements that you made to it, that kind of thing, that's going to increase your basis. And then any kind of depreciation that you take against it. And so for the folks that are doing real estate deals and that are doing funds, you guys get the power of depreciation and how much that can juice your investors' after-tax return, and how interested they are in getting that to offset that income that you're spitting out to them along the way. The problem is that when you sell an asset, if you haven't caught up on the modified accelerated cost recovery schedule, the makers, then you pay what's called depreciation recapture. Well, opportunity zones not only eliminate capital gains on your new investment, but they also eliminate depreciation recapture, because now your basis is equal to whatever the people paid for it that are buying it from you. So that becomes really powerful when you really get into the numbers, and why I said that it's probably more than just a 23.8% difference, because you're able to make that depreciation recapture go away as well.
So a quick question about that, Ashley. So if in our world, for most of us that are in the housing space, whether it be apartment complexes or, whatever that looks like. A lot of us, in order to try to maximize those tax benefits, we're using cost segregation. The
Yep,
downside that most people don't understand or talk about is recapture,
that's right.
and most people don't understand it. And so if you're getting a really large upfront year one, year two tax depreciation benefit from your cost seg study. But if you sell in 5 years, you've got to pay all of that recapture. You've got to recapture all of those depreciation benefits.
That's
And
correct.
so
Not all of it. It's pro rata in accordance to how much of the makers you've eaten. So in year one, it would be all of it. In year two, it's 60%. In year three, it's 40%, and it goes down 20% per year. And so
yeah,
anyhow, but yes, you're
so
correct.
yeah, so but my point is, especially in quick turn deals that
That's
have,
right.
if you're looking at a velocity deal, you really want to be very cautious about doing a cost seg study, because you could potentially put all your investors into a bind where it's now, okay, now what do I do? You
Yep.
need it, not that you can't do it, but you got to have a plan. One of the huge benefits here is that if you hold this asset long term, which most of us say that's what we want to do, unfortunately, a lot of times we don't. But if you hold this long term, 10 years, then you would completely eliminate any recapture whatsoever.
That's right.
So huge, huge benefit. Also, I wanted to ask a question. I know that uh, uh, the last time that Neil Bawa and I were talking, I don't know if you know Neil, but
I do.
we were talking about this very subject about how is the OZ designated. So Congress created this to stimulate communities that are underserved and are possibly struggling, to try to put money back into those communities. But it did not designate the area. It left that up to the local government to designate the area. And because of that, it does not mean that these are all located, so to speak, in really low income areas that are what we would normally classify as a D class area. A
That's right.
lot of these, my friend Lane Bean has done two of really large projects
I know
in
Lane as
Austin.
well.
So then Lane's doing this in Austin, in the path of progress. So you
That's
can
right.
be in the path of progress, and that might be low income, not because it's a D class area, but just based upon some of the factors that you have already mentioned: low population, or historically it's out in the country, a lot of different things. But it's notable that at least 20% of these OZ zones, these opportunity zones, are in very, very desirable areas. So if you're doing ground up development, especially, then you really want to look. One of Ashley's first slides was an OZ map. So if you are investing in a particular area, you need to know that map, because there could be some really huge potential benefits to juice your returns. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page, Ashley, and that might not be as familiar. So
Sure. And if you want to check, if you want to search and see if something's in a zone, you go to ozpros.com/map, and you can search all of the 8,700 zones, across the United States. So a couple of things that you caught on is that there's some fantastic zones. I've shot videos in Georgetown, South Carolina. That's a waterfront zone. I've shot videos in Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach has the strip is actually an opportunity zone.
wow,
I'm working on a deal for yachts with some guys down in Palm Beach, where there's an opportunity zone right outside of Miami, where we're going to be able to store the yachts in an opportunity zone. Um, I've done a bunch of. We actually have an RV park ourselves. We've got a tiny home community that we did through our fund. that's waterfront in Beaufort, South Carolina. We bought a boat and RV storage facility that you could see the water from that's in Port St. Joe, which is right outside of Mexico Beach. And so there's really, really aggressive, areas that are experiencing hyper growth right now that are opportunity zones. The whole island of Puerto Rico is an opportunity zone. So we invested into 3 hotels down there, and Puerto Rico has just gone crazy. And there's a number of reasons behind that. Number one is that the property was so undervalued after Maria that it couldn't help but go anywhere but up. The second thing is that it's the United States of America, and people realized how important that was when they went through COVID and they couldn't get to, to the Cayman Islands or to Turks because they shut it down. And it's, actually United States, and there's a lot of value associated with that. So there's great zones. All you got to do is just go to the map and you can see it.
So Ashley, that brings up a question for me is, are you able to double up on tax benefits? So if you
Absolutely.
So you can still do a cost seg inside of an OZ?
Absolutely.
And
you're crazy if you don't.
Okay, I was going to say, does that even make sense? I mean, from a CPA's perspective, I don't know, the intricacies of that. And then you bring up Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has a lot of really strong benefits, taxation benefits, if you relocate your business to Puerto Rico.
Well, it's not just, it's not. So if you got to become a resident down there.
Yeah.
But you basically, it's the only place in the world where an American citizen can pay 4%.
Yeah.
The other thing about Puerto Rico is that we've got a 40% tax credit going for each one of the hotels that we're building, where we're going to get 90 cent, we'll be able to sell it for 90 cents on the dollar, all of those tax credits. We also invested into a solar manufacturing company, and we're getting tax credits for that, as well as we're going to be putting solar on the boat and RV storage facilities that we'll be doing in order to be able to either monetize those tax credits because they're now transferable under the Inflation Reduction Act, or to be able to pass them through to our investors. So yeah, you can absolutely stack incentives. I've helped a bunch of people do historic, also LIHTC deals in opportunity zones. LIHTC are, if you guys haven't done that, that's a little bit cumbersome, which is the great thing about the Opportunity Zone program, is that instead of like all of the bureaucratic red tape bullcrap that you got to deal with in a deal like that, inside of an Opportunity Zone, it's literally, and I'm going to walk you through how easy this is when I share my screen, but it's literally as easy as setting up an LLC, because all a qualified opportunity fund is it's an LLC that's taxed as a partnership.
And can you back into one, Ashley? So if you already own an asset and you didn't realize you were in an OZ, can you back into one?
It's a little bit, it can be a little bit tricky. I'll walk through that. So let's walk through how we could do it. It's a lot easier if it's raw land. It's fascinating that this isn't doing it. So I'm just going to actually share my screen, and then we'll get hopefully we don't get all right. Can everybody see this cheat sheet?
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So this is OZ 101. These are opportunity zones on a page. If you go to OZPros.com/podcast, we got some special deals for everybody that's on here. You can download this cheat sheet from there if you want this cheat sheet. You can also get my slides, I think, off of that page as well. If not, just send us an email and we'll get you the slides. We love to share. So you got to, like I said before, you got to start with a capital gain from a sale to an unrelated party. And you got to put that qualified capital gain into a qualified opportunity fund within 180 days. Now, if it's from a S Corp or a partnership, we can usually stretch it out. So right now we're actually taking people's gain from January of 2023, and we're able to defer it because they got it on a K1. And as long as it's coming on a K1, we can still defer that gain. And I can't tell you how powerful that has been for us in grabbing investors, because they're like, oh, wait, what do you mean? I don't have to write a check to the government here in 5 days for, $1 million on my estimated taxes? I'm like, nope, we're going to defer that, and we're going to defer it until 2026. So as you're talking to your investors, do not discount that is a huge value proposition for them. It might not seem that long, but what it does is it allows us to be able to do aggressive tax mitigation planning for them between now and then. And so inside of when we do this, they put their money into the fund and they may want to put it into your deal. So you could set up a qualified opportunity zone business and you can accommodate investment from a fund. And so you could either have your own fund or you could set them up their own fund where they have their own individual qualified opportunity fund where they may put a little bit into your deal and then we can show them other deals. They could go into Neil Bawa's deals. There's a litany of places that they could put their money, including tax advantage vehicles where they're going to be able to get that massive amount of bonus depreciation. Reason why I was talking to the guys about the yacht is that what we do is we take a portion of their money that they've got in their fund and we stick it into the yacht where it's going to have a levered depreciation that's going to pass that depreciation up to them. And we're going to utilize that to offset the taxes that they're going to pay in 2026. So it becomes an avenue and a vehicle that you can utilize in order to postpone that gain so we can do some creative tax planning between now and then. So if it's your fund or if it's their fund, literally that's just an LLC taxed as a partnership. Now there's some nuances to the language that you need to have in your operating agreement to make sure that you're compliant, which that's what we do. We've set up over 500 funds at this point. And if you're interested, we can absolutely help you with it. It's not complicated, but once again, you need to have good professionals who are walking you through it. Your fund then needs to have 90% of its assets in qualified opportunity zone property. So you can either invest directly, and I regularly set up funds for the Fourplex Investment Group, FIG. I don't think that that's Neil's deal, but it's kind of a similar deal to one of the things that he's been doing. And so if you're going to have just a fourplex that's in an opportunity zone that you're buying as original use, hey, just buy it directly in your fund. If you're going to be developing, then I would say don't buy it directly and instead invest through what we call a qualified opportunity zone business, which once again can be an LLC taxed as a partnership. It's very simple. And that entity says, it raises its hand and it says, hey, I'm willing to comply with all of these 5 tests, and I want to accommodate capital gains money from a fund. I want to do an offering to a fund that's established out there. And so you can now accommodate, you can accept money from established qualified opportunity funds or from the qualified opportunity fund that you set up and that you're raising money into. And so when we set these things up, when we're filing the Reg D, we say, hey, listen, go ahead and set up a qualified opportunity fund and a QOZB because your Reg D can actually cover both entities. You can file 2 entities on one Reg D, and we cover both of them when people are actually offering and doing 506C offerings. And I'm kind of throwing out some terms there. Everybody familiar what a Reg D and a 506C is?
Yeah, that's those terms are a lot more familiar with everyone that would normally be listening
Perfect.
to us. The OZ, some of the OZ terminology would be new
Sure.
to some folks.
So let's talk about once you've got your money, right? So once you've kind of got your setup and you got your QOZB, you're going to end up having to have 70% of the tangible property that's owned by the QOZB actually be qualified opportunity zone business property. And instead of me getting bogged down into what the definition of that is, I'm going to use a real world example. Okay. I'm going to use a real world example of somebody who is acquiring an existing RV park that's out there right now. Is that a good one? Or we could do a mobile home community. I don't really care.
Either one of those are great.
All right. So, there's this RV park, right? You got your RV right here that's parked on the RV park. You don't want me as your Pictionary partner because that's my RV. Well, you got a little air conditioning unit on the top, right? So I guess that looks more like a fire truck. But you got your RV park and you've got it under contract. And so what you're going to do is you're going to set up your qualified opportunity fund. You're going to set up your qualified opportunity zone business. And you just need to find some capital gain from either yourself or from investors. Take that capital gain, you run it into the qualified opportunity fund, and it doesn't have to be the full purchase price for the RV park. As long as it's generally 10% of the aggregate project cost, you're probably going to be okay. And that's not in the regs. That's a Sherpa special, but we pull it from the SBA to say, hey, listen, that's where we're not going to get wound around the axle with the IRS, where they're going to say, no, this is part qualifying, part non-qualifying. Go ahead, Jim.
So real quickly here, Ashley, because this is something that is very different in an OZ fund versus a 1031. So you're saying a capital gain. If you are, the purpose of a 1031 is to take your capital gains and not have to pay them by reinvesting the money in another like kind property. In other words, real estate for real estate.
That's right.
That is a huge benefit here in an OZ, that it does not need to be like kind. This could be capital gains from any source. It can be capital gains from stocks that you've sold, from a business that you've sold, from real estate that you've sold, whatever that capital gain looks
Crypto.
like.
It could be crypto that you've sold.
Crypto.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to make that point, Ashley, because a lot of people are not aware of that.
The other really important thing that is different between this and a 1031 is you don't have to trace proceeds. And so if you had a capital gain, but you stuck that money somewhere else, you put it into the market and you're like, the market's down, I don't want to have to sell that stock. You don't have to go and find that actual cash. You could take cash from somewhere else and put that into the fund and be able to defer the capital gain. And so we utilize that mechanism all the time too.
That is powerful.
Yep.
That is really powerful.
The other thing too is that this QOZB doesn't have to just do real estate. It could actually be any kind of business that's operating. So we did a bakery as an SBA deal, where somebody bought a bakery that was inside of an opportunity zone and they're making donuts, and we made that an opportunity zone deal. We've got dispensaries, we've got hemp farms, we've got, hunting operations, we've got all kinds of operating businesses that will qualify as QOZBs. And that's the other big distinction, is that it doesn't just have to go into real estate. Now, I'd say that 85% of the deals that are getting done are real estate deals, but they don't have to be. And so we put our money into
I hate to interrupt. What kind of farms?
We've got hemp farms. We've got
hemp. Okay.
Hemp.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I'm doing two things. I heard pimp farms, PIMP, but you said hemp. So I just want to make
that
sure
may be a new one that we haven't. we have to investigate that.
Oh man,
all right.
I'm not even going to touch that one. I'm just going to laugh.
Yeah. I just wanted to get everybody to laugh, because that's what I heard.
If you want to do your pimp farm as a QOZB, we could probably figure that out. But I want to see that business plan. Anyhow, so
Actually,
yeah.
how far back can you go? You said 2023. Can you go back 2022?
No.
No.
So it's effectively you've got 180 days. But you get to choose when that 180 days starts if you had it through a K1. And so that allows us, if we're before September 10th, we can go back all the way to January 1st of the prior year. So up until September 10th, we could go all the way back to January 1st of 2023 if it's coming on a K1. Okay? Otherwise, it's 180 days. Now, I will also give the caveat, because we use this to solve and to save failed 1031s all the time. You guys have done it. I'm sure that you probably had this happen to you. You put your money with a QI, you got 45 days to identify, you can't find anything that you like. And so you're like, crap, what am I going to do? Right? Or you get, you identify, but then one of the deals falls through. And so you're like, holy crap, now I'm going to have to pay taxes on that because it's going to come back to me as boot. Well, with that, because the money's been with a 1031, if you make the election to treat that as an installment sale, you can actually make it so that when you get the money back from the 1031, that starts your 180 days. And so that becomes really powerful as well. And we all the time fix failed 1031s. So
another super powerful. Everyone needs to go back and rewind that 10, 15 seconds over and over and over again. For
That's right.
everyone that's done a 1031 or knows someone who's in a 1031 that is struggling with it, because I don't know what the percentages are, but it happens every day. A lot of people wind up being in a taxable situation because they just didn't find the right property.
the other thing that you can do, and you need to know this as you're marketing your fund and as you're potentially talking to people about why opportunity zones are so good and why they make sense, a way more sense over a 1031, is that inside of a 1031, you're just deferring the tax. So you sell right here, you're deferring that tax effectively until you die. But people are like, well, man, yeah, okay, my it's going to step up in basis when I die. Well, the problem is it steps up in basis when you die. And people are not focused in on the fact that, hey, the lifetime exemption amount's $24 million right now, but it drops to $5 million per individual effective of 2025. And so if you've got a $10 million net worth or more, then you need to be very tuned in to how much basis and how much tax you've got built up in those 1031s, because within 180 days of your death, your estate is going to have to pay 40% on all of that money that's over $10 million. And people aren't talking about this. It's mind-blowing to me, but it's really significant. Inside of an opportunity zone deal, it's not the case. When you take your capital gain and you put it into the QOF, the amount that goes against your lifetime exemption amount against your estate when you die, so like let's say that you die in 2035, it's not going to be what the value is as of 2035. It's going to be what the original amount was that went into the QOF. It's whatever your basis was. And that's really, really powerful because it effectively becomes a poor man's irrevocable trust for purposes of freezing your estate value. And that's another, added benefit of the opportunity zones. So you got your capital gain, you drop that into the qualified opportunity fund, you drop it down into your qualified opportunity zone business. Let's talk about timing. You got 180 days to get it into the fund, but then the fund has between 6 months and a year before it has to drop down to the QOZB. Then once it's inside of the QOZB, you now have 31 months to spend the money that you put into the QOZB. Exactly. So from the time that you had the gain, you've basically got around 43 months, right? So you've got almost 4 years between when you had the gain and when you have to deploy this cash. So it becomes a mechanism for giving yourself a lot of time to do a deal, which inside of a 1031, you don't have the luxury of. So let's talk about the differences between this and a 1031 though. So the first difference is that a 1031, you can't have a trade or business. You can't be involved in development, right? That's one of the challenges with it. Inside of an opportunity zone, you have to be in a trade or business, and you really should be developing something. You need to be doing some kind of improvement to it. So you can't buy you couldn't set your QOZB up and then go buy a Dollar General that's on a triple net lease that's already built. That's not going to fly, and I'm going to show you why. So inside of this, your first test is that 70% of your tangible property needs to be qualified opportunity zone business property. The definition of that is over here. It's tangible property used in a trade or business acquired after December 31st, 2017 by purchase from an unrelated seller or by lease, and the original use or substantial improvement happens in an opportunity zone. So let's apply this to our RV park example. You've got this thing under contract. And if it's fully entitled and it's fully done and it's cash flowing and there's no way that you can improve it, it may not work. We can usually make RVs in mobile home parks work, even if they are cash flowing, because what we can do a lot of times in an RV park is we can put tiny houses in. And that's the key, is that you have to have some kind of substantial improvement that happens, because you ultimately have to take whatever the value of the building that's there when you buy it. So whatever the current worth of the building, you have to double the basis of that. So in this example, we got $1 million purchase price on a building, but the building itself is worth $550K. You're going to have to put $550,001 into that building in order to hit your substantial improvement threshold. Now, on a building, that can be quite tough. On an RV park, not so much, because if we've got this and we've got like a snack shop, right? And this snack shop, so this is $1 million purchase, and the snack shop, let's say, is worth $550,000, which we know ain't going to happen, but we're just going to use this example. So we know that we've got to put $550,001 into it. It could be really tough in a deal that you're buying that's cash flowing to justify that, because it's probably not going to pro forma or pencil out. But in an RV park, if you're able to put in tiny houses in some of those RV spots, now all of a sudden, we put in 5 tiny houses and we've probably hit our substantial improvement threshold. And we've just jacked up our rent that we're able to charge for those tiny houses. So that's what you're looking for when you're looking for deals that are inside of the opportunity zone. So that's our original use for substantial improvement. Now, original use means that if you're buying something that's new construction, you can do that if it's never been put in service, or if it's been abandoned for the last 3 years, you can get original use and you don't have to substantially improve it. Otherwise, you're going to have to put double the amount of whatever the improvements are on it. The other piece is that, so the rest of these tests are more applicable to kind of operating businesses and less to real estate, is that 50% of your business needs to come from an active conduct in an opportunity zone. And if you are doing a real estate deal, you're going to hit this test no problem. If you got an operating business, it's all about where your employees and independent contractors are. So if you're paying at least 50% in the zone, you're good to go. And it doesn't have to be the same zone. It can be any zone. And so we've got a lot of people that's what they're doing, is that they're setting up leasing arrangement with co-working spaces, and they're just having their folks go to those to work. Bam, now all of a sudden we got a QOZB on our hands, and we're able to exit that thing 10 years later and not pay any taxes on it. One thing that is noteworthy inside of these tests is that it can't be a sin business. In the sin business definition, and I think that they specifically did this as like it's actually, they pulled it from the new market tax credits. It wasn't a shot across the bow of Donald Trump. But you can't have a golf course, a racetrack, and that racetrack is mostly gambling facilities, massage parlor, hot tub facility, or off-premises alcohol sales. So the pimp farm might be a little bit tough based upon what you're doing, right? So if it's got hot tubs or massage parlors, the pimp farm ain't going to work. If it's just a pure pimp farm, you're actually good, because that's not on the list. What's interesting is that cannabis is actually not a sin business, which is funny. And so as long as you can show that you're actively operating some kind of legit trade or business under the eyes of the federal government, then that's not precluded. Go ahead, Jim.
So Ashley, we tend to not talk a lot about business as a way of creating generational wealth, but in fact, opening a business is a phenomenal way. It's not as passive in the early years as real estate can be, but it's still a great opportunity. And if you're operating a business, let's say you're operating a handyman business that is specifically targeting multifamily assets to take care of their maintenance, and you're doing that citywide, there's absolutely no reason for you not to set up in an OZ, because you've got massive benefits that can be applied to that business by setting it up in an OZ. Am I accurate in stating that?
That's absolutely true. So I don't know, I've probably got a slide on this somewhere. Let me see if I can pull it up. I got a gazillion slides in here. Right here. Oh, not that one. Right here. Flex Industrial Accelerator / roll up. So I got a client in Raleigh. He built this facility right here. And it's got, it's got office in the front and warehouse in the back. It's like the flex version of a mullet. Business in the front, party in the rear. And so what he has then done is that he's got this building. So he's got his fund, and then he's got his QOZB. The QOZB owns the dirt. What he then has is he has all of these other guys, right? These other businesses that are operating, right? So this is your HVAC truck. So he's got HVAC businesses, he's got plumbing businesses, right? And they are all located inside of his flex industrial space. So what he did is he set up a second QOZB that he made an investment to, this QOF, and this is his call center QOZB. And it also has all the back of the house stuff that provides services to these companies. And then what he's doing is that he's waiting to see who's actually good. And then he's taking his QOF and he's making an investment into them. He's turning them into a QOZB. He's buying a chunk of their equity. He's helping them grow. And then he's going to help them exit after 10 years. And bam, he's not going to pay any capital gains on that. He's also buying businesses that are outside of the zone, and he's moving them into his flex industrial center inside of the zone. That absolutely works as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Phenomenal stuff there, guys. This is going to be an episode where, typically we really talk a lot more about your model of raising capital, but this is such great stuff for all of the folks that are doing this. Most of you are independent business owners. You're running a fund. Is there some benefit to the way you're doing business by incorporating some of this OZ tax advantage stuff into your business plan? But I have another question, Ashley, which I love your tagline. I don't remember. It's what is your tagline? Not the OZ expert, the OZ
Sherpa.
Sherpa. There you go. Like OZ Sherpa, going to guide you up and keep you safe traveling all the way to the top of Mount Everest. But are there ways, if you're in an area and you are not in an OZ, but you feel like it should be for whatever reason?
I wish. No.
Okay,
The answer
all
is
right.
no.
There's
I know where
no
you're going
way.
with this.
Oh wait, so that's
No.
one done. When they created those boundaries, it was done then, and it's never to be changed.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Now with a caveat that if the legislation goes through now, ones that have passed 130% of median income, those are going to get grandfathered in, and then the states can designate new ones. So if that legislation goes through, you guys need to get really friendly with your Department of Commerce in the governor's office that's going to designate those zones, because then you could get them designated.
Do we have any legislative update as to when this might be coming up for a vote, and if we should be reaching out to our legislators?
It's pending right now, but we're getting sucked into an election year, and so it's going to go by the wayside. There's no way it's going through. You should absolutely be reaching out to your legislators, though, and telling them, hey, this opportunity zone thing, you need to get on board, and you need to figure out a way to get it extended. And that should be to everybody's, to your Congress people and to your senators. Just do the outreach and say, listen, because the more it goes and the more it gets in front of them, the more they're going to be inclined to be like, okay, yeah, I need to actually pay attention to this.
Do you have any advice, Ashley, if anyone wants to reach out to their legislator, specific language like, I want to see the OZ extended, or I want to see OZ follow through or updates, or a bill number or HR house number, anything like that?
I'm going to check and see if we still have the advocacy link up. Yeah, here we go. So if you want, we've actually got and I'm posting this in the chat right now.
I was going to say, let's copy and post that in the chat.
Yeah, you can go to opportunitydb.com/advocacy, and it'll redirect to the advocacy toolkit. And we've got a webinar on it. We've got sample letters, and so you can reach out to them that way.
Is that your YouTube channel, Ashley?
This so that's not actually on my YouTube channel. I do have a YouTube channel. I'd love it and I'd really appreciate it if you guys could go and check it out. We've got all kinds of informational videos there. Would love it if you'd subscribe, and you know, that as you guys know, that's really beneficial and very helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think that we already posted your website in the chat. So you have links in your website to your LinkedIn and to your YouTube channel and everything else of your social media. So we want to encourage everyone, if you want to learn more about this, I know this is really high level stuff for a lot of folks, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. But if you go to Ashley's website and subscribe to his YouTube channel and follow him on LinkedIn and the other social media platforms, you can start to slowly absorb this and start to learn a lot more about it. I have been on all of his channels. There's a lot of phenomenal information there.
So at some point, I'd really like to talk about how we raised money, because I think that that's kind of what you guys do. Apologize that I got kind of bogged down on some of the details here, but one thing that's you know, as we're talking about this, and I was getting ready to go somewhere. Oh, we've got lots of resources for how you can learn more about opportunity zones. So to the extent that you want to get involved, I've got a weekly mastermind that's called Ascent, and there's a link on our website to where we meet weekly, and it's literally like rapid fire questions that people fire at me, and we go through those in detail once a week, and it's 10 to 11:30 every Tuesday. We also have a community called OZWorks Group, and if you go to ozworksgroup.com, it's a little bit cheaper. So my mastermind is $350 a month. ozworksgroup.com, I think we've got like a membership that's like $39. And if you want that, that gives you access to like literally like 8 hours of videos on opportunity zones. And there's like 600 people in there that are all doing opportunity zone deals. So at the very least, if you've got a deal that you want to float and that you want to try to raise money for, you can place that there. We've also worked out a deal with a group called OZDeals.com, OpportunityZoneDeals.com, and they are posting active deals that people are raising money for. So I've got a deal. Go ahead, Jim.
Can you address real quickly, Ashley, the 506B, 506C component of OZ deals? Do those, you're still operating within that framework? So certain deals you have to be accredited, and other deals you have to be at least sophisticated?
Yeah, so most of the deals that I see and that are going to be on OZDeals.com, because they're being advertised, those are going to be 506C. And so you're going to have to be an accredited investor in order to do those.
Are there any that are using Reg A so that anyone can invest?
I haven't seen a Reg A Plus yet in the OZ space.
Or no, and neither a CF?
No, you know what? I've actually seen a CF, but the problem is that in order to get the benefit, you got to have a capital gain, and it can be a gigantic pain in the neck, like walking each CF investor through like what they need to file and how they need to file their taxes on it. And so it's like, all right, it's probably the juice ain't worth the squeeze.
Yeah, and I would love to talk to you sometime about, you know, I think there's a huge opportunity for the industry where we do not have a centralized marketplace for folks that are in a taxable event, whether it's a 1031 exchange, an OZ, whatever the capital gain looks like, but especially 1031s. There's not a central place for people to come and say, look, here's all these deals that you can get into. Here's all these deals that if you're selling or if you're buying, you know, that you have an opportunity to create a marketplace for everyone to go to. It's very disjointed at this point. And everyone is kind of, it's like the Wild Wild West. You're on your own. There's not a central place that you can go to and say, look, I have a 1031 exchange. I'd like the option of looking at, show me all the OZs that are out there. Show me all the other 1031s that are out there, and aggregate all of this data. So it's not there. I think that's a huge opportunity for folks like you and me, to potentially start some kind of movement in that direction.
Yeah, so would love to. And, to your point, you're exactly correct. There is not a place where that is happening right now. And so, would love to, help in whatever way we can in order to try and facilitate that, because as, as you've pointed out, it would be fantastic. I mean, for people that are raising money, for people that are looking to invest,
Yeah.
for the OZ curious, right? I mean,
all the way around.
Yeah.
So we are running up against the top of the hour, and
Yep.
I want to be very respectful of your time. And so I would take questions, but I would rather, if someone has a burning question that really just you feel like I have to have this answered or else I'm going to die, raise your hand. But otherwise, to stay with our theme of our regular Wednesday call of capital raising, Ashley, could you give us maybe a couple of nuggets about systems or apps or anything that you use that you feel are indispensable for people that are trying to raise capital, or websites they need to check out, or any just targeted advice? Like, one of the things you've done is you've been very, very, very niche in what you do. And
Correct.
you hear that a lot in business. The more you can niche down. So inside of our big commercial real estate, inside 506C and A and B, inside all of that, Ashley's niched down into this very, very specific OZ, and he's become the expert on that. So if you can speak to any of those things about anyone that's trying to get better at this or starting out doing this, about capital raising.
Yeah, so you definitely want to use a portal. I think that you guys use like I don't know what it's called, but it's like a Vant Investor, something like that, or Juniper Square is another one. They're really expensive, and I can't remember exactly what portal we used when we raised our fund. And and then inside of the fund, you've got your fund offering, but then you've also got your QOZB. And so you need to have the ability to be able to manage all of the information and the updates and that kind of thing that go out and that need to go out to folks. I'm trying to think about one of the, like, if there's any kind of cheat codes that we've found relative to, making things seamless inside of the investment. And I think that the biggest thing that I would say that I would do and I would do going forward is that when we had a deadline, when we had to close a deal and we needed to get that money raised, we were able to close. We raised $1.5 million in 10 days. I've got a deal right now that is it's a completed Class A multifamily deal that's literally generating a return. That's an OZ deal in Charleston. But because there's no deadline on it, like, it's like I can't get people to put money into it. And it's the unicorn of opportunity zone deals. And it's that deadline. And it's that fear of missing out that get people to actually write a check.
So sometimes, if I'm hearing you, sometimes you need to create an artificial deadline.
Correct.
And then if you didn't reach your goal, then you're going to have to reposition that deadline in a different light.
Correct.
If you want to come back around. So, Ashley, is there one piece of software or one system that for meeting new investors that you depend on? Like, I could not live without this one thing, whether it's some type of CRM or
HubSpot.
some type of HubSpot. So HubSpot, a lot of people think of as a CRM, but HubSpot, like Salesforce, one of the very, very big players in the marketplace. They do a lot more than just CRM, and there's a lot of layers to it. So I'm assuming you're saying HubSpot mainly from the CRM perspective.
Correct. And so we have a ton of inbound leads, and HubSpot allows us to be able to effectively triage those and to be able to figure out, all right, which one of these do we need to put on the drip? Which one of these do we need to pick up and call immediately?
Yeah. And do you use anything outside of HubSpot, like to integrate with it, like a Go High Level or I always have a brain fart when I want to mention this particular person's name. Anything similar to that?
I don't know what Go High Level is, but I'm writing it down right now because I'm like, maybe we need to check that out.
Well,
But
who is the OG in the drip campaign and CRM and follow up and
Russell Brunson,
Russell? What's Russell's
ClickFunnels.
ClickFunnels? Jesus Christ! All right, I'm gonna depend on Daryl and Alicia to always check my old fart brain when I want to think of that. So Go High Level is like I guess a modern twist on ClickFunnels.
So we built out ours internally. I actually
WordPress
started
or some other platform.
Inside of HubSpot. So
Okay.
I actually made him an opportunity zone business, but I invested into a guy that was starting an agency that does marketing and does funnels. And he actually built ours out inside of HubSpot. And the key thing is that you've got to have that, like when you're telling your story, so you got to have your brand story. So you got to have your story about your deal. You got to have the why associated with it. And then you got to have a call to action that drives them to a landing page that gets their information. And then once you have their information, you need to follow on and keep on with that story. And you need to make sure that you're controlling the narrative the whole time. And that is specifically including when you're going. So like when you get somebody that says, oh yeah, I might be interested in that. You are then very intentional about walking them through the process of, okay, let's schedule closing for next Tuesday. Do mornings or afternoons work better for you? And so you schedule a time when they're actually going to go to the bank and wire you the money. Because if you rely on, hey, listen, you said yes, I need you to wire that money. When are you going to do it? It ain't going to happen. And so you need to control the narrative and make sure that that's absolutely heading towards you getting the money in the bank account.
Drill down. So you can't be afraid to ask. So
That's right.
Ask for action. So we are a couple of minutes past. Ashley, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and
Sure.
and share with us. We'd love to have you back and talk about just the broader subject of how to raise capital, how to find your target market, and some of the tools and how to get better at it. And I will also say to everyone that if you want to reach out to Ashley, he's very easy to find on LinkedIn, but we've already posted in the chat, and we'll make sure and post in the comments on the YouTube, how to reach out to him and how to reach out to his company if you're interested in having additional conversations, or if you want to explore opening your own OZ or your own OZ fund. And also, I want to do a quick shout out since Steve is on the line right now. Steve, one of our GOB members and regular here on Wednesday calls, is having a capital raise webinar tomorrow at, I believe, 11 Central. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes, it's not necessarily capital raise. That's our Saturday call. So tomorrow we're doing a note investing seminar. We're going to kind of go over some of the due diligence our team does when we're looking at mortgage notes. So we've got a meeting here tomorrow. I can put a link in the box in the chat.
Yeah, please do.
And then we kind of do our sales capital raising kind of thing on Saturdays. So that one will be coming out shortly as well.
And Steve, if anyone wants to join that tomorrow, is there something, what's the easiest way for them to find you for folks that are not going to be able to see the chat? Go on LinkedIn, go to your...
Go on LinkedIn. You can find me there. It's linkedin.com/in/connect with Steve Johnson. If that's helpful. Search Steve Johnson or First Shield Financial. That's our team.
Yeah, First Shield Financial should pop up, and you can follow First Shield.
Yep.
And that's part of Steve's team, and and get to the webinar link. Anyone else hosting a webinar or anything that they want to promote today before we drop off?
Well, you know me, Jim. Every other Tuesday. Listen, on the 16th of April, we're going to have Jason Stubblefield, and we're going to be delving deep into underwriting every Tuesday, not every Tuesday, every other Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come on out and be a part of it.
And if you're interested, for the ladies that are on the call, so every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, we have an underwriting session that Daryl leads for the GOB network. And Alicia and Sonia are head of the GOB Inc., which is for ladies that are investing. And Rhonda's on the call today. Rhonda Harris and Alicia are working on an RV park deal in Texas. So, reach out to them if you're interested in that asset class and you're trying to diversify outside of just regular multifamily or whatever you're doing. And let me look through the room here and see if there's anyone else I want to call out. So, okay, I think that's it. Again, Ashley, thank you so very much. We would love to get you on the call again. And I'm not going to hang up because Ray just raised his hand. But if you've got to leave, go ahead and leave. But I'll call on Ray before we hang up.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and happy to come back on whenever I can.
Thank you, Ashley.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Ashley.
Super,
Ray, do you got a
super.
question for me, or is that for
Yeah,
Jim?
I actually have two things. I just want to make sure that the question is tied to this Zoom, so I don't like change the topic too much. Jim, is this the chance for raising capital if you have a deal? That's the first thing.
And specifically, Ray, I was glad you joined today because I know you're doing some ground up development, and OZ works super, super well for those. So if
Yep, and that was my next. That was
map,
actually my next question too. Was right now we're working on a 16-unit townhome development in Atlanta. If you're familiar with Atlanta, it's right next to the Atlantic Station, so not too far from the Beltline. And that one is already prepped, it's shovel ready. So we got all the utilities and everything. We're just waiting on the last land disturbance permit so we can go vertical with the development project. So Ashley, the question to you would be at
What's that
that stage
address?
of that, the address,
Yep.
it's a 701 Antone. It's Antone. Antone Road,
Street
and that's
Northwest.
Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, street, not road. Yep.
Yeah, so that's not in an opportunity zone, which
so
is
that's
interesting.
that's the bad news.
Yep.
The good news is, for future developments, this is something that, especially in markets like Atlanta that are growing rapidly, try to figure out what the path of progress is and see if some of those coincide with OZs. And
Yeah,
Ashley, do you know specifically, or like I know Lane is absolutely laser focused on these in Austin. Do you know of any in Atlanta that are like, okay, these are in the path of progress? These you
Oh yeah, I
absolutely
mean,
need to
like
be.
pretty much the whole northwest side here. I'll show you here, and I'll pull it up where we just searched. Give me that address again.
Yeah, it's 701 Antone, Antone.
And I'll share my screen. Oop. All right, so this is where that is. If you zoom out, right, you pick up where the I-75 is, and then you've got kind of roughly this whole northwest area over here that's all OZ. So I don't know. Do you know the Brock-Built guys? I've done a bunch of stuff with them in Atlanta.
I'm not familiar with them. I might have seen them, but I'm not familiar.
Yeah. So they're doing a bunch of deals over here in this northwest area. But I mean, you can see that there's a big, there's big swaths of it in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's towards Marietta area, Kennesaw.
Yep. And then, you can kind of see as it a whole, like when you're looking at it here, like where they're kind of focused. It's interesting that there's a bunch up here, like up by Marietta, Sandy Springs, that kind of area. But what you just described would be like a perfect deal for an OZ because you're buying it and whether you're buying something as raw land or whether you're buying something that you're going to tear down, that's a layup because you're going to get this substantial improvement done, no problem.
Got you. Understood. And to the team, as far as this project, so this particular project, we're structuring a little different. Sorry, it's windy out here. I'm structuring a little different where the deal is already ready to go. We have the capital for the deal, but we're opening up the deal for people to invest to get a 30% return in 18 months. And so within that, the reason we're doing that is because we want to make the deal seem a little more liquid. So when we go to the banks and submit financials, we actually can get into later deals in the future at cheaper interest rates. Because right now, with our hard money lenders, the interest rates are in the 13-14% range. And even at that particular interest rate, we're still making the deal work because we're getting the deals so below market value. And so in order to kind of structure the paperwork with our CPA and stuff like that to the banks, that's kind of why we've been opening up a few development deals like this for people to invest and then for us to structure the deal that way. So if anybody's interested in that particular deal, I'm actually almost done with the pitch deck and I'll have a recording and stuff out and you can kind of see more details about that for this particular development.
All right, guys. I appreciate everyone. Tell a friend, bring a friend, and we'll see you on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And the ladies, it's also on Wednesdays. So reach out to Alicia and Sonia and connect if you'd be interested in being a guest or learning more about how to invest through the ladies group. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Hey there, I have a question.